Welcome back to our Vectorworks 2026 drafting tutorial. This is a continuation of the previous tutorial on creating title blocks. In this section, we'll create borders and title blocks for larger format drawings that'll be a little bit more in-depth and complicated. So from my previous file, my title blocks file, I'm going to go in and start working with a different page size. So I'm going to come up to File, Page Setup, and I want to select US Arch C. That's going to give me a 18 by 24 inch piece of paper. I'll click OK, and I'll come up here to zoom and fit to page area, and now you can see I have a much larger piece of paper than I had for the previous one. For right now, I'm going to just select the symbol of the previous border and title block and just delete it. It actually isn't really gone anywhere because we created that as a symbol, so I can bring that back whenever I want. But we're going to work on creating a new symbol for this larger C size page format. So much like the previous border, we're going to select our double line polygon. I'm going to again be in left control line mode. I'm going to double check my preferences that I'm just doing create lines and that my separation is 1/8 of an inch. So all of that looks good. So I'm going to say OK. And like before, I'm just going to go around the perimeter to each corner until I've done all 4 of them. And there is my border. The one thing that I neglected to do that we did before that I can change while it's still selected is the line weight of my border. So I'm going to come over to the attributes palette with those selected and make them 28 so that they're thicker. There we go. And then I'm just going to click an empty space to deselect them, and I've got my border in place. Next thing we're going to do is define the rectangle that will be the title block on this larger format. So I'm going to zoom in again on the lower right hand corner of my border, and I'm going to activate my rectangle tool, number 4, and I'm going to start on this inside border line right at the endpoint. So I'll click and drag to start my rectangle and tab into my floating datum bar, and I'm going to make the X -2 because I want it to go 2 inches to the left. Tab over to the Y and make it 10 so it's going up, and hit enter so it's going to define that size, and then I can click to complete it. I actually want this to be a gradient fill, so right now over in my attributes my fill is none. I'm going to go ahead and change that on this drop down menu and drag down to gradient. And it's going to turn it this brown to yellow gradient, which is definitely not what I want. So I'm just going to click here underneath the drop-down menu to open my temporary resource manager. And I'm going to scroll down till I find metal stainless steel GR, I believe it's right here. I can double click on that, and now it's changed my gradient to what I want. The next thing I'm going to do is start defining the lines that are actually going to create my title block sections. So I'll activate my line tool, the number 2, and I'm just going to draw a horizontal line right across the top of that rectangle. From there I'm going to move it, so Command M, and I want to move it down 1.5 inches. And there's my new line. From here, I'm going to continue to define the various segments of my title block. So with that line that I just drew selected, I'm going to duplicate it and move it down 1/8 of an inch, and I'm going to do that 7 times. That's going to create all of the sections that I will have to reference revised drawings in future iterations. From here, I'm going to duplicate that last line again and move it down 1¼ inches. Then I'm going to duplicate that line and move it down 2 inches. And duplicate that one and move it down 1/8 inch. And I'm going to do that 10 times, which is going to create segments for me to reference different positions on the production team. And then I'm going to duplicate that last line that I just created, and I'm going to move it down 1 inch. And that's going to define all of the various segments of my title block that will populate with information. Next, I'm going to add a different gradient fill to one section of this title block. So I'm going to activate my rectangle tool, and I'm going to draw a rectangle over my 1 inch section that I made. And I'm going to come over to my attributes palette and tell it that I want it to be a gradient. And instead of that brown to yellow, I'm going to open up my resource manager and scroll down until I find opacity black GR. And I can click on that twice, and now it will give me a different gradient fill in that one section. Next, I'm going to add the first bit of text to my title block. So I'm going to zoom in on this top section up here, and I'm going to activate my text tool. It's again right here in the basic tool set, or you could do the number 1. And up in my text section here, I'm going to set my text size to 4 and make sure that it is centered before actually starting my text block. Then I'll come to this section and start my text block. And I'm typing in the section of text that is in figure 42 on the written tutorial. So I'm going to just go ahead and type that out in real time. Note that the top and bottom sections are bold. Okay, I've got this set now. Obviously, the designer and his assistants, you would use the appropriate pronouns for yourself in that instance. And when it gets to the design copyright, you would definitely put your name instead of mine. So I'm going to select this section right here, and I'm going to make it bold. And I'm going to select this section right here, and I'm also going to make it bold. And then I'm going to hit escape to get out of the text editor. And I'm going to take this section and just make sure that it is centered in this box. So I'll just get it to the top center. And then I'll grab this point and this point and this point and come vertically. And now I've got it centered in that section. Next, we're going to import the logo of the producing organization. In this case, that is Union College. So you can download that logo from Nexus. Once you've got it downloaded, we're going to come up to File, Import, and Import Image Files. I'm going to click on that and navigate to where I have the logo saved. I'm going to use the Garnet one down here at the bottom. So I'm just going to double click on that, and it's going to give me this splash screen about importing images. I'm going to go ahead and do it as a PNG because it's a smaller file size. Also, there is an alpha channel, which means it's transparent behind it, which I want. So once that's all set, I'll click OK, and it imports the image for me. Obviously, this is much too large for what we want. So next, we're going to resize it. With that image selected, I'm going to come up to my Object Info palette, and I'm going to verify that Lock Proportions is checked. That means that however I scale it by one dimension, it will keep the proportions and automatically scale it in the other direction. So I'm going to select the width, and I'm going to change the width to 1 7/8 of an inch, so it's just a little bit smaller than my title block rectangle is wide. I'll hit Enter, and you can see it automatically resizes my logo. From there, I'm going to center it in this section. So I'm just going to grab the center smart point. I'm going to establish smart points on each of these endpoints so that I can get to this midpoint, and then also the midpoint of this horizontal line. And then I can drag it to where it's intersecting both of those, and I know that my logo is centered inside this section of my title block. Next, I'm going to put in a placeholder for where my show logo is going to go. This is going to be the logo of the specific production that I'm working on at any given time, but I just want to have a spot that I recognize on my title block of where I want that to go. So in my text editor here, I'm going to change to Arial Regular, and I'm going to change my font point to 48. It's going to be pretty good size. From there, I'm just going to activate my text tool with the number 1 and click in some empty space and type in show logo. Great. Once I've got that there, I'm going to grab the center of it and just move it to the center of that segment. Again, I'm going to establish endpoints so that I get a midpoint, and then I'm also going to do the midpoint of this horizontal line. That will show me where the exact center of that segment is, and I can place my text. Next, I'm going to work on the section that will list all of our creative team members. So for this, I'm going to change my font point to 8. And I want my justification to be left justified. And I'm going to go ahead and just create these individually, and then I will drag them into place. So activating my text tool, I always have a director. Frequently I have a choreographer. Scenery. lighting. I want to reference either the TD, the technical director, or the PE, the production electrician. I'm going to reference the production manager. We want to know what scale our drawing is in. We want to know who drafted it. And we want to know the date. Now that I've got all of those done, I'm just going to drag their center left smart points over into the various sections of my title block. Great. Now, ultimately, I'm going to be creating a new info record just like we did with the previous smaller title block. So I want to be able to reference those individual blocks of text. So I'm going to just draw a marquee around all of these to select all of those individual titles. I'm going to duplicate them. I'm going to change the justification on those duplications to right justified. And then I'm just going to come in individually and drag them to the other side of my title block. And I've got that all set, ready to be created into the info record when I go to do that. Next, I'm going to create the text that is going to be our drawing title in our info record. So I'm going to come up to my text block, my text editor up here, and I'm going to change my font point to 18. And then I'll activate my text tool, and I'm going to say it's going to be drawing title. Once I've got that, I'll hit escape to exit out of that editor, and I'll grab my new text and drag it into the middle of this other gradient box. And from here, I can notice that this gradient isn't going to work. It's going to get too dark over on the side, so I want to go ahead and change that and something that's going to work a little bit better. So I'm going to select that rectangle. Over in our attributes palette, again, we can see that it's gradient, and this is what the gradient is. So I'm going to click on that to open my resource manager, and I'm going to look for metal steel GR, which is right next to the stainless steel we used earlier. I'll double click on that, and I think that's going to work a little bit better for us. It doesn't get quite as dark on the far end, so we'll still be able to read the title. Next, I'm going to populate the section that's going to reference our drawing numbers. So for starters, I'm going to change my font point to 14 and start a new text block. And I'm just going to call this plate. Each of our drawings, each individual piece of paper, when it comes to drafting, is referred to as a plate. So it's really just going to be a title. Once I've got that, I'll grab it at the center, and I'll just kind of center it at the top in this section. Next, I'm going to change my font point again, this time to 36, so it's going to be quite a bit bigger. I'm going to start a new piece of text, click in some space, and say 1. Again, these are going to be placeholder numbers for our object info record. So once I've got that, I can hit escape. I'm going to move this over into my title block. I'm going to duplicate it with Command D and move it to the other side. Then I'm going to come up and I'm going to change my font point yet again. And I'm going to change it to 12 and start a new piece of text. And it's just going to say of, OF. I'll hit escape so that I can move that. And I'm going to take my of and put it right in between my two numbers. So this is going to now reference plate number 1 of however many drawings. In this case, it's 1 of 1, but it could end up being plate number 15 of 35. From there, most of the information is populated in my title block. If I zoom all the way out, it should look like this. And next we'll start working on the object info record that all of it will reference. Next, I'm going to create a new info record that's going to be associated with this title block. So I'm going to come up here to my resource manager, and I'm going to make sure that my title blocks file, the file I'm currently working in, is selected. And in the empty space, I'm just going to right click, say I want a new resource in title blocks, and I want it to be a record format. This is just like we did before with the ASME A size. But for this one, its name, instead of format 1, I'm going to call this the full title block. And I'm going to populate that with all of the members of the creative team that I made earlier. So I'm going to start with the director, and its default is going to be director. Next is going to be the choreographer. I'm going to abbreviate that just because it's a long word. Then scenery. And costumes. Lighting. TD or production electrician. The scale that my drawing is in. Who drafted it? Date. And the drawing title. Okay. And then I'm going to click OK. And if I come back up to my resource manager, here's my full title block info record. Next, I'm going to create a symbol out of my border and title block, and I'm going to attach the info record that I just created so it can be referenced. So in my zoom section of my menu, I'm going to click on Fit to Page area, so it'll zoom all the way out to the full size of the piece of paper. And then with my selection tool, I'm going to click and drag, creating a marquee that everything is included in so that it's all highlighted and selected. And from there, I'm going to click on Modify and Create Symbol. It's going to ask me what the title is going to be. I'm going to call it US ARCH, short for US Architectural. C, this is a C-size piece of paper, 18 by 24 inches. And then I'm going to say TB for title block. I want my insertion point to be the plan projection center, which will be right in the center of my symbol. And the rest of my defaults are fine, so I will click OK. Next, it's going to ask me where the destination for that is going to be. For now, it's just going to be right in the file that I'm working in, so I will click OK. And now I've created a symbol that's my border and title block. I can move it around, and it all moves as one entity. From here, I'm going to assign the info record so that it will populate my creative team information. So I'm going to select my symbol, click on Tools, Records, and Attach Record. I want to attach the record format that's the full title block, so I'll click OK. It tells me that was done. That's great. Now I need to attach the individual pieces of text to the individual fields in that info record. So I'm going to double click on my symbol so that I'm going to be editing it. I want to edit the 2D components, so I'll click Edit, and it brings me into the symbol where I can edit. From here, I'm going to select each of these fields individually and say Tools, Records, Link Text to Record. I want to select the full title block and click the appropriate field, so Director. And then I'm going to go down the line and select all of these in the right-hand column and connect them to their appropriate field in the info record. Looks like I've got the wrong field name for costumes, which is totally fine. I can update that in just a minute. Ah, it fixed itself for me. Great. And it looks like when I made the info record, I skipped the production manager, which is just fine. We'll go back and update that in just a minute. For now, I'm going to go ahead and finish connecting the rest of my text, and then I will update both of those. So this is for my scale. And my date. Okay. So now I'm going to go up to my resource manager and I'm going to right click on my full title block info record and say I want to edit it. Here I am in that editor, and I need to make a new field, which is for the production manager. So I'm going to say PM, and the default is going to be PM. Okay, and just so that I keep it clean and everything is in order, I'm going to grab where it says 10, and I'm going to drag it up to between TD and scale, because that's where it is on my title block, and then it'll renumber the order of those fields for me. From here, I'll click OK. I'm done editing that. Back in my symbol editor, I'm going to click on PM, come back up to Tools, Records, Link Text to Record. I want my full title block, and here's my production manager. So I can click OK, and that updates that information. That's all finished, so I'm going to click Exit Symbol, and I'm going to zoom out to fit my page area again. Next, I'm going to create the D size border and title block, and I'm going to do this off of the ones that I've already created. So I'm going to come up and hover over my resource manager to expand it, and I'm going to right click on my US Architectural C title block symbol, and I want to duplicate it. When it asks me what the name is going to be, I'm going to delete the -2, and I'm going to change it to size D title block. And there's my new symbol. From here, I'm going to go ahead and select this border and title block, and I'm just going to delete it. Remember, the symbol's still there, so I could replace it anytime I wanted. But so that I have a clean piece of paper, I'm going to get rid of it. Then I'm going to come up to File, Page Setup, and in my printable area, I want to choose the D size. That's going to give me a 24 by 36 piece of paper, and I'll click OK. Obviously, our paper is a little bit bigger now, so I'm going to come back up to Zoom in my menu and Fit to Page area. There it is. And now I'm going to hover over my resource manager and double click on my new title block symbol so that it's active. And I'll bring that into the center of my drawing and click to place it. Now obviously it's too small for this piece of paper because all it is a duplication of the C size. So I'm going to go ahead and change the size of everything so it fits this piece of paper. So I'm going to double click to enter into that symbol. Yes, I want to edit it, and I want to edit the 2D components. And from here, I'm going to click and drag and create a marquee around just the title block portion of my drawing. So all of that's selected. And I'm going to make that into a group, which is Command G. And now that can all be moved as one individual element of my symbol. From here, I'm going to select all of the outer lines, and to make it a little bit easier on myself, I'm just going to draw a marquee with my selection tool around all of that, including the new group I just created. And then while I hold the Shift key down, I'm going to click on that group to deselect it. From here, I can just go ahead and say delete. I want to get rid of that border within this symbol. I'll zoom back out to my page and come back up to my double line polygon tool to activate it. It should still be in the same settings that it was for the other title blocks, but just to make sure, I want to be in left control line mode, and within my preferences, I want to be in create lines with 1/8 of an inch spacing. All that looks good, so I'll click OK. And again, I'll just start in the top left corner of my page and draw my border all the way around the perimeter like I've done before. Once that's done, I can activate my selection tool and deselect everything. And now I can grab the bottom right corner of my title block group and just drag it so it intersects with that inner border like we've done before. And my symbol has been edited. So now I can click Exit Symbol, and anytime that I insert that symbol, everything will be resized to fit a D-sized piece of paper. That's the end of my borders and title blocks, so I'm going to go ahead and save my drawing. Now I've got borders and title blocks that I can reference for 3 different sizes of paper as I move forward on future projects.